Today's episode is all about unleashing your natural ability to multiply money. You'll learn about 3 financial epiphanies, how to create urgency in your financial journey, and why approaching money with simplicity and creativity can empower you to take real control of your financial future.
Welcome to Biz Help for You, the show that saves you the expensive learning curve by providing advice from industry experts in every facet of the entrepreneurial journey. Too many small businesses collapse. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20% fail within their first year, and less than 35% make it to their 10th anniversary. The goal of this podcast is to change that statistic. So if you're interested in learning more to be a successful entrepreneur, tune in today.
My guest, Scott Yamamura, is here to share how entrepreneurs can reframe the way they think about money, much like athletes striving for peak performance. So, Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Candy. Great to be here.
I'm excited to have you here too. And I'm sure people are interested in this topic. Who doesn't want to multiply their money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say that multiplying money is an ability. So can you explain what you mean by that? And why is it such a powerful perspective shift for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Albert Einstein, at least on the internet, is popularly coined as saying that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. And that saying has been out there for a long time. But it only gets a certain percentage of us excited about this compound interest. 8th wonder of the world, this has to be amazing, like the pyramids of Giza and these other amazing things. But why don't more of us take advantage of it? I think it needed to be redescribed. Compound interest is a banker's term. It's an old term. I like to say it's about as comfortable as hugging a cash register. It's cold and has hard edges. So I sought out to state things differently. So instead of thinking of money as this object that's growing and accumulating, and some people culturally or in their family, it might be taboo to think about accumulating money. It might seem very, self-centered or, once again, culturally taboo to be going after such an objective. So I like to turn around by saying, multiplying money is an ability, because it really is. It's always been said that it's tied to either our age or time. So when you invest, say, in a 401k retirement plan, individual retirement account, or a regular taxable brokerage account, these ways that access index funds and stocks and bonds that allow money to really multiply and get this compound interest. When we describe it as an ability we have, it makes it very personal. It gives us ownership over this process. And I like to describe it that way, like you had mentioned, much like an athlete, because we do have this peak time with our ability to multiply money. And it's very interesting. Most people believe a myth that multiplying money is something I'll do later, when I get promoted, make more money, when I'm older and savvier, that's when I'll figure it out. But it's actually just the opposite. It's actually like athletics, where many athletes, NFL football players, Olympic ice skaters, and gymnasts, they're at their peak performance in their early 20s. And it's interesting because money is like that as well. So I like to just bust that myth and tell people, no, it's not that you can be better later. Actually, it's the younger version of yourself that can really take advantage of this, because it's time that matters. So that's why I like saying it's an ability, and multiplying money is like athletics.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, we know that saving early is important, but a lot of people also are thinking, well, I have maybe some college debt that, I incurred because I had loans, or, I'm young, I'm not making a lot of money in my job yet because I'm, new in the field or something. So it's a little bit difficult. So
Yeah.
what would you say to someone who is thinking, well, I understand, like, theoretically it's important to save early, but I'm struggling trying to figure out how to do all of the things. And if I've just, recently started a business too, I'm also trying to manage that. Like, what would you say in terms of how to prioritize and figure out what can they invest and what do they need to be able to keep to pay off some of that debt or to run their business?
Yeah, I like to say for each of us, there's a path of snares and traps waiting for us. So if we don't have a plan going in, we're definitely want to try to figure out how to get out. But those 5 C's are card, car, college, cake, and condo. And those are debt-ridden expenses waiting for us if we don't have a plan. So, when we reach age 18, we're going to start getting these credit card applications in the mail before we may even feel educated on how to handle debt and finances and borrowing. And then comes the student loan and the car loan. And by cake, I mean wedding cake, where the average wedding goes about $10,000 in debt. But also that means travel experiences and experiences as well. And then condo, where we can become house poor by buying too much home and too large a mortgage to either impress our friends or get a bigger home than we can really afford. So we may find ourselves in the middle of all these things. And then another thing you mentioned, it could be a business loan, a personal loan, or things like that, where we started our business. So we may find ourselves in the middle of debt and borrowing at the time that we want to also learn how to be healthy stewards of our finances. And if that's the case, we may also be investing in our retirement. We may be doing everything, and that's a lot of balls to juggle. And so one plan is to say, okay, psychologically, it's great to make progress and to see progress as immediately as we can. We love immediate gratification. So set aside retirement savings. That can free up some money. And you can take that money now and put it towards debt. And the idea is knock off your smallest debt first. So if you've got credit card debt and that's the smallest one, it's $1,000, pay that off. And whether it's money from that you're saving from not putting towards retirement, or if it's extra hours, or if it's one more client, or a side gig, any of these things, cutting a subscription, selling some things, to pay off that first debt, and then using that newly freed income from not paying interest towards paying the second largest debt and the third largest debt, and really getting through these debts. Because the other thing, going back to the quote unquote Albert Einstein quote, is that if you don't understand how compound interest works for yourself, growing money for yourself, you're actually paying it to someone else when you borrow that money. And so we really want to get compound interest to work for us, for it to be on our team. And so reducing our borrowing, reducing our debt, as close to zero as possible is a great idea, if that is possible, if that is in your business plan. And then putting money into retirement or saving for your kids' college after that, getting compound interest to work for you. But first, getting rid of paying someone else that compound interest, the money that you deserve.
Right. Well, and I know when you were talking too about the 5 C's and you said, buying maybe more than you can afford, or you're talking about the car that you're purchasing. I think a lot of times too, people do think like, I need to make sure that things look like I'm doing well. And so, they're leasing or buying a newer car, or they're buying, like I said, a house that maybe is beyond really what they should be doing. Can you maybe help them, reframe what they should be doing and how to better determine, like, what should I be getting? Can I get an older car instead and not have a loan, or can I just get, a smaller 2-bedroom, 1-bath, home without the big yard, until I can actually move up someday into that? Do you want to touch on that?
Right. I think there's just going to be the struggle between what are my peers doing? What do I think the culture expects of me? These impressions that we feel people have. And then there's what's running under the hood. What's under the hood? When we lift up this hood of my business or personal finances, what's truly under there? And I do believe that we want to be responsible and we want to be sustainable. Going back to the athlete analogy, say an athlete isn't able to participate in sports because they have bad grades in high school. That's kind of like not being able to multiply your money because we're busy with our debt, right? So because we know that this athlete is in their prime, they're going to be able to be the star football player, soccer player, baseball player, whatever it is. And then that ability is going to diminish over time. We know that there's a window of opportunity. That coach is going to sit that athlete down and say, you have this ability and I don't want you to squander it. I want you to steward this thing. You've got these bad grades, so you can't play. you got to work on these grades. You got to focus on this D and get it up to a C or a B. And when we do that, now you're going to get on the field. You're going to be allowed on that field, and you're going to really be able to shine with this ability that you have. And the same goes for money, is that we want to coach people to focus on getting out of that debt because they do have this ability. It's really incredible. I've quantified it with these 3 rules of thumb that we'll go over. So that people really can concrete understand without having to go to an advisor or get a calculator out. They can learn themselves what their multiplying power is and feel really, really confident so that they can take greater strides later. But it starts with having this ownership and this simple understanding themselves first. So once again, I like to parallel it with athletics.
Right, makes sense. Well, and you've said a couple times, simplifying, things can be complicated. So I'd love for you to say, well, what is the simple framework that you have then, and what does it look like in practice?
Yeah, absolutely. So if most people, 78% of folks are living paycheck to paycheck, some studies will say 77% of us are in debt. And there's a low level of financial literacy. So we know that's where most people are. So regardless of what the car looks like, that's what's happening at every age, wage, and stage of life. It's pretty incredible that's what's happening. We've heard of the retirement crisis and the student loan crisis and the housing crisis. We've made crises normalized. It's a normal, regular part of life that we just accept. And so really we do owe it to ourselves to get healthy. So with money being constantly roving variables, just dancing around our heads, most of us feel overwhelmed and intimidated. There may be even some guilt about our past money decisions. So what we want to do is make money freeze. So it's not dancing around everywhere. If we chose the most common path that money takes in our lives, and in the biggest way that we use money, which might either be saving up for a house or retirement, I like to describe it in terms of retirement. Now we can build upon it. So how do we make money freeze? Well, the most common path is for retirement is people starting a career around age 22, working 40 years, and earning about 7.2%, that sort of rate of return on invested money. And each one of those variables could be something different, but when you lock money down like that, now you can finally build upon it. It's not this constantly roving set of variables that you can't lock down or chase down with an understanding. So when you do that, we come up with the 3 financial epiphanies. And the financial epiphany number 1 is that when money is earning that 7.2% every year, well, over 10 years, the money is doubling. So you put $1,000 in, if it's earning that 7.2%, 10 years later, it's $2,000. And that's financial epiphany number 1. That is single investment of money when placed in. Don't even touch it. Don't even add anything else. Doubles to 2,000. Now we know an input. Now we know an output. Well, money can double on its own under normal circumstances. I need to participate in this rather than that money going towards something I don't necessarily need. We can make the choice to then multiply it. That's the ability. That's the ability to score. That's the ability to get yardage. That's the ability to win. We want people to know that ability so they take that opportunity to invest rather than spend. So that's the first epiphany. And then that actually is the building block to the second epiphany, because who works 10 years? We said money can double every 10 years, and that's just the math of it. So what happens over a 40-year career? Well, if it doubles over 10 years, 1,000 to 2,000, it's doubling again over the next 10 years, 2,000 to 4,000. 10 years later, 4,000 to 8,000. 10 years later, 8,000 to 16,000. By the time we retire in our 60s, wow. So if you look at the input and output now, $1,000 in, 40 years later, $16,000. That's incredible, those numbers. And if you talk to a money nerd like me, I love it. I love this exponential growth. I don't mind the term compound interest so much anymore. But for most people, we want instant gratification. 40 years? I don't want to wait for that. And so when I look at my friends and family that just don't like that concept of waiting, they say, I want it now. And so I really racked my brain. I thought about that that psychological issue of, okay, a lot of people don't like to wait. What do we do about this? How do we take later minded and turn it into now minded? And then a thought occurred to me, my own epiphany, which was I flipped it around. And instead of saying $1,000 turns into $16,000 later, I said, well, actually, you have this ability, this power of 16 now. You have the ability to multiply money by 16 times now. And what that does is it gives people a quantification. 16. Okay, instead of this big mystery, I now have a number, 16. And I understand that that's going to diminish over time. And that leads right into financial epiphany number 3, which is every 10 years, our multiplying power halves. Okay, so it's 16 when I start my career. 10 years later, it reduces by half to the multiplying power of 8. 10 years later, it's 4 in my early 40s. And in my early 50s, it's 2. And then hopefully we're enjoying the fruits of our labor in our 60s and retiring. Once again, going with just the most common circumstance. But when we do that, we apply these numbers and we show that our multiplying power is diminishing over time, just like athletics. Can't expect to be in our prime with sports our whole life. A sense of urgency now falls upon us. This is loss aversion. This is a powerful psychological phenomenon where if we were to say you're going to gain $16,000 40 years later, but if we say you're going to lose your multiplying power by half every 10 years, now we're like, oh, I need to act, because losing something has 2 to 3 times the impact as gaining the same amount, thus loss aversion. So we take advantage of that psychological concept here. And in the third financial epiphany, describe it that way. And it creates a sense of urgency. Now we know what's happening because there's numbers and things are having, our multiplying power is having. Now we have that urgency to act.
That's so true. And it's so important. And I think kind of what ties into that, though, too, is, again, people are spending on things that they probably don't need to, right? But everybody does it. Everyone has Netflix or Hulu, or they get the newest iPhone or whatever, and how can you help them maybe realize you don't need to have the newest phone? You don't have to have all these subscriptions, and yes, it's a sacrifice, but you can now put that money away and you're building, for your future. And, maybe, like you said, focusing more on avoiding the loss instead of thinking, in the future, how it's going to multiply. But can you maybe touch on that a little bit more too, for someone who's listening who is like, well, I don't have any extra really to invest, but they probably do if they look at their spending?
I like to say that instant gratification lasts a day, but financial wellness is gratifying every day. And by that, I mean, instant gratification is you buy the item, you put it on the shelf. The act of buying it and seeking it out and finding it was exciting, but then it just wears out. And the next day we have to buy again. And the next day we have to buy again. And if you recall, your children or even yourself during holiday time or getting a gift, sometimes you didn't even care about the item. You played with the box when you were the kid. So, right? So where's the value really? It's in ripping open the present, or it's in the anticipation of the item, but then it can lose its value to us pretty quickly. So, but financial wellness is gratifying every day. Boy, what's that mean? So if you run the turtles race and you do accumulate every day, slowly, this money starts to gain traction and grow on itself, almost out of your control. And it starts growing and growing and growing, this multiplying of money, like we were saying here. Having that sort of financial wellness, financial health, financial security there for your family, for your future, and even to use towards others in the community, that is gratifying every day, because that amount is growing every day. And you're not spending to get that gratification that we all desire. It's simply multiplying. So one is a positive way of getting gratification. The other is kind of the world's way. And we are the most marketed to society on the planet. $400 billion are spent annually. That's about $1,000, over $1,000 per person, even the children and the babies. And I don't know if that's something to be proud of, but if you're patriotic, you definitely are spending in this economy, helping it go. But we need to know when to stop for ourselves and for our own financial health and future. And so once again, taking it back to athletics, that that ability that you have, I want you to use that while you've got it. It's so potent. One way of saying it is that understanding these multiplying powers is if you worked a week of work and ran your business and you got paid for that week from a client or this or that, what you expected, well, that's what you signed up for. But now let's say you work that same week of work and a client said, I'm going to pay you double. You've been so good. Let's give you double pay. You would be ecstatic. You would be like, oh my goodness, incredible. I want to keep working with this client. They opted into this without me asking. This is so rich, and this compensation is so worthwhile. Let's keep doing this. Well, that's the power of two that we just talked about, doubling. But what's the power of 16 that we talked about when we begin our careers? What's that feel like? That's like working that same week of work and getting paid for 4 months. That's the sort of leverage the power of 16 is. And when we talk about compound interest, when we talk about the eighth wonder of the world, when we talk about multiplying money, when we truly put it in those sorts of that framework of work a week of work, get paid for 4 months, now we're starting to really get and realize what multiplying power really is. This leverage is enormous. Who wouldn't take advantage of working a week and getting paid 4 months and then working another week and getting paid 4 months? We're not jumping into this because we don't realize that. But when we frame it up like this and give these simple rules of thumb, now we can finally get what's happening and really take advantage of this rather than look back, because a popular voice among retirees is, I wish I knew then what I know now. If I could go back, I'd do it all differently. I wished I saved more earlier. So let's listen to them. This is exactly what they're talking about. I'm trying to give people an easy way to understand this. So they're like, oh, that's what they're saying. Okay, let's take part.
So what if somebody is in, a relationship, their funds are, combined, whether, married couple living together, whatever, the situation is, and you've got someone who is saying like, it's really important for us to save, but then you have someone else who's not as on board with that, right? Because they do want to have the things, or, whatever the situation is. Like, how would you work with them to figure out, like, how are you going to be saving for your future and still not having someone feeling like they're completely missing out on things?
Yeah. And once again, if we're on a team and we're athletics, we don't want one person to go this way and another person to go that way. So to get aligned is great. And we have financial coaches out there, financial advisors. But to agree on a plan, to agree on, are we going left, are we going right together, is good. And if someone is practicing unhealthy habits, it can be hard to hear that being confronted by who you're living with. But if it's from an unbiased third party, and let's say someone is healthy and someone is not, then it can help get everybody on the healthy path. So that's what I would first want to do, is get aligned, and a professional and an unbiased third party can absolutely help with that. But then what happens outside of that? Well, there's a wealth of information out there. I myself took workshops, brought it back to my wife, and she did, agree with most of the thoughts and plans and vision that I'd had, and brought back to her. But I also like reading and podcasts and all of that. And you start to realize, when you listen to a wealth of information, what is overlapping? What is everybody agreeing on? And that helps you feel confident in the direction that you can take or talk to your partner about. Is, hey, this is the healthy, the wisdom and the advisors that are out there that are saying the same message. This is what they're saying. Why don't we head in that direction? But definitely getting a third party involved, accountability partners, and then just doing a lot of research, choosing the direction. It's a good way to go.
Perfect. I know this has been an informative topic. I'm sure people are learning a lot just from this conversation, but I know we're coming to the end of the time we have together today. So I wanted to ask, do you have an offer that you would like to extend to our listeners? And if they want more information, how can they reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is financialepiphany.com. And that's where I have the book that I've written available. And there's a free download there. So those that are interested in the basics about starting a Roth IRA, retirement account, or learning how to get out of debt, or how to see a financial coach and get started with that, or even how much to save up for retirement, that's there. And another thing is occasionally I will be holding workshops. Sometimes they're free. And so when you catch me and the next workshop is being announced, you can join on in and learn alongside others and ask questions. And that's the phase that I'm in now, is doing talks like this, like with Candy today, and then also offering workshops to not only teach people along the path that I've been, but also to get feedback and see where are you at, and so I can better cater this message to those who want to learn and get healthy with their finances.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Scott, for being on my show and talking about this topic. I think, finance is an important topic to really have a discussion on, and people need to hear more than once, obviously, the information. So I thank you so much for being here.
Good to be here, Candy. Thank you.
And to you, the listener, if you enjoyed today's topic and you want to hear additional information, you can find access to exclusive content in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in today. Would you please share this episode with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? And if you find our show informative, would you consider being a financial sponsor to help me continue my mission to educate business owners? A link is located in the episode description, and no amount is too small. I'd really appreciate your support. If you are interested in connecting with our guest and receiving the offer they had to share, a link to our resource page is in the show notes. Finally, if you have any bookkeeping or payroll needs, reach out to us at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.